Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives Podcast. This is part one of our series on Levitate. On today's show, we have April Jordan
Hi, glad to be here.
and Leia Stallings.
Hi, thanks for having us.
April received a full introduction in part two. As we like to give a sneak peek to contextualize her input on this episode, April is a managing partner at Carolina Property Insurance, based out of Murrells Inlet, South Carolina, and has 20 years of expertise and experience in the industry, joining Carolina Property Insurance in 2021. Our focus today is going to be on Levitate and Leia Stallings, who is the VP of Customer Success. Leia has a vast background in the technology world, from startups to SaaS products, with over 15 years of customer care, product management, research, and UX knowledge. She is a strong advocate for users, loves to translate customer insight into actionable product recommendations. Leia joined the Levitate team in 2019 as the Director of Customer Success and is now the Vice President of Customer Success. An inside source let us know that Leia has a Great Dane named Jax, who is becoming best friends with Leia's kitten, Chloe. As a quick note, we will be demanding photos as a stipulation of this episode's release, so just be on the lookout for that email. Leia, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Yes, it is always entertaining to see a tiny little kitten curled up next to a 160-pound Great Dane.
Oh, that makes my 10-pound Chihuahua seem very, very small.
But they are giant babies, so.
Aw, yeah. I would love to set the stage before we jump into our full partner questions. And Leia, could you give us the elevator pitch for Levitate?
So, Levitate is a communication platform that really helps relationship businesses like your insurance agents stay in touch in a personal and scalable way. So, if you think about word of mouth referrals, typically it's going to be, someone asking their friends, their family, their colleagues, hey, do you have a recommendation? So they might say, hey, I'm looking for a new insurance agent. Is there anyone you'd recommend? And what you really want to have happen is your business is top of mind then. So, they can say, my agent is really great. They're always reaching out to me, staying in touch. They just sent me an email last week. Let me forward you their information. And at Levitate, we realize it actually is more than that, because even after they forward the information, that person is probably then going to take that and go search you online. And when they Google search you, what are they going to find? They're going to be looking at your Google business profile, your reviews. They're going to see then your website. If you've got a recent blog post, that might pop up in search results. If you've got social sites, those are going to pop up, and they're all really important as part of that online presence that you have and whether or not someone's going to choose to reach out to you. And so at Levitate, we've built features to kind of help these agencies with all of those aspects.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I always lead because I've known Levitate. Levitate was one of our very first API partners, and I've worked very closely with the Levitate team for nearly 5+ years. I think at this point, probably closer to, I want to say 7, maybe might be the real number. But I always lead with the keep in touch marketing, because I think that's such a unique angle to explain what differentiates Levitate from maybe some other traditional CRMs or marketing automation, that focus on staying in contact with your audience at the right time. I think is a great way to clue people into what makes you different. So we ask all partners that come on the show the same 5 questions. And the goal here is to help build a comparable set of answers that independent insurance professionals like April can use when they're evaluating technology providers. So we're going to jump into our 5 partner questions. Our first partner question centers on story, because HawkSoft believes in the power of a company's or an individual story. We think it's the easiest way for someone to connect with you and start to really form an understanding of your values and who you are and where you've come from. My first question for Leia is always just a fast pitch right down the center. why does Levitate exist? Or if we look at it from a different reason, what is the reason that Levitate participates in the independent agency channel?
So, our CEO Jesse Lipson really saw a gap in how traditional outreach tools didn't really help you stay in touch. That keep in touch, like you're saying, in a way that's consistent and really a way that feels personal. And so, as a small business owner himself, and realizing how important referrals and word of mouth was to business, he built Levitate to fill that gap. And we know that insurance agents are also businesses that are built on referrals and relationships. And so that's where we, really want to help them with growing their books, staying top of mind. And we really focus on making sure everything is authentic and personal in Levitate.
I'm very tempted to ask the origin of the name Levitate, but what I would prefer is for listeners, whenever you encounter someone from Levitate at a conference or a trade show or something like that, ask them, put them on the spot and ask where the name Levitate comes from. 'Cause it's a fun story, but I want people to ask it in person.
I won't answer that. But I will say, as a funny side note, the song "I'm Levitating" came out right around the same time a few years ago, and so it's become a little bit of a common song we use in our office.
Oh, that's awesome. If we're thinking about um, comparing pieces of software, and I will say, Levitate, you fight in a rather I don't want to say crowded. I think an ecosystem supports what it can support, but there are a lot of options in the space of marketing and business communication and outreach. HawkSoft is very familiar with this. We swim in a very similar type of environment where there are many options for the agencies that we serve, and our perspective has become, there are going to be these table stake features. 80% of what we need to do are the things that we have to do in our category to be in the running. What makes someone stand out is the 20% of key differentiation, this aspect of the business that they do differently, or the special sauce that they have that makes them stand out. um, so my second question is, Leah, if you had to pick one aspect of Levitate that draws in and keeps customers, what would that be?
I would say I really think our personal touch that we bring is what stands out. Every customer at Levitate gets a dedicated success specialist who's going to work with you to understand your goals, create content, and just hold your hand as you're using the tool. We really pull that personal and authentic kind of all the way throughout, because everything we do in our content library is focused on that, in how success is working with you on a personal level, thinking about your goals. It's all around being personal and authentic.
So, April, what was your experience like with your success specialist?
So I still get to work with my success specialist, which is really a great asset. He is amazing, very responsive. We schedule Zooms together and work together during those times. But if I ever need him in between, he is always responsive and just one email away. And he really has just helped us walk through the process of becoming more automated in the agency, and also helping us to keep in touch with our clients. And technology is great, but we're insurance agents, so we're not always the technology people. So that's not not what we do best. So it's so helpful to have that dedicated person, and just the level of service that we've experienced with Levitate has just been great.
Yeah, thank you. Um, Leah, as I connect dots in my head, um, is it right to assume that you oversee these success specialists?
Yes, that is correct. So I might be a little biased that we have an
Sure.
amazing team.
But I'd love to know what what is the ethos or the mission you instill in that team. um, how do you motivate them to get involved with the customers, or to um, Yeah, what is the directive you give them to help agencies?
I mean, I think that really starts with, our core values. And so one of our values is really customer empathy. We obviously start with that all the way from hiring. When we look for success specialists, we look for people who are going to embody those core values we have. So they're people that just generally care. They love talking to customers all day long. They love helping them, and they really just want to see them be successful.
Nice. How many success specialists are at Levitate?
We have 32 success specialists.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nearly just fell out of my seat. That's amazing. And so
Mhm.
is it a proactive team? Are they
Yeah.
doing outreach?
Yeah. So, I mean, we are doing outreach, but like April said, we really strive to have a regular cadence of
Mm.
meetings with our customers. So, we've already got that time scheduled on the calendar. We're planning to meet with you every few months. We're coming with ideas. We want to hear what's going well, maybe what goals have changed. I know there's been a lot of changes happening in the insurance market. And so being able to kind of pivot and, make adjustments in what type of content we're putting out there.
HawkSoft recently introduced, and recently, last 2 years, we introduced a customer success team, and tried to shift our engagement with agencies from being reactive to being that type of proactive, regular engagement, talking with them. I always call them kind of like the intervention specialists, where they're making sure that they get ahead of maybe a bad experience, or they're making sure that the agency gets the
Mhm.
most out of the software. Because to April's point, agents are, especially today, facing an ever-changing industry and having to be experts on extremely complex um, rules, regulations, underwriting requirements, all the different carriers they're appointed with. It's so complex, and then we throw software at them, and we're just like, okay, also be an expert on this thing.
Mhm.
And so it sounds
Yes.
like your success managers are helping them they're taking that burden off their shoulders and making sure that they can focus on what their expertise is in, and then the Levitate team is there to say like, hey, we know how to use our system to achieve those goals with you.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would explain it.
We've reached the hard pivot at question 3, um, and it's just, there's no better place to put it, so we throw it in the middle. HawkSoft, a piece of what draws the audience, our customers, into us is um, our very outspoken position on data ownership. It's a huge focus on the advocacy that we do in the space, and something that just helps us earn the trust with customers, because we put our position on data ownership at an agency level into our agreements, and we're very vocal about it. From our perspective, the data that an agency cultivates and enters into our system is theirs. They own it. They can take it with them should they ever choose to leave us. We don't put a lot of barriers around it, and we try to facilitate the use of it. So, um, kind of putting you very much in the focus. How does Levitate approach data ownership with regards to agencies?
So this is actually an easy one because we have a similar stance. The data is always yours. It's your client information. For example, with the HawkSoft integration, we always tell clients, HawkSoft is your source of truth, and we're just here to help you use your data to better reach out to your clients and prospects. So you've already got all that information, like clients' birthdays and policy renewals and emails and phone numbers in HawkSoft. So we're just going to sync it into Levitate just to make it easy for you to segment and reach out to people.
April, how has your experience been with regards to this data ownership piece? Is this a topic that resonates with you as an agency principal? Is it something that you explored when you brought on Levitate? Love to get your perspective on the topic.
Well, I think I have a great perspective on that because Levitate has walked us through a transition from
Mm.
one AMS system to another. So I think that I can speak to that tremendously. And Levitate really was a rock star in all of that and really helped us navigate that. And also, as you add employees, things change, data changes. Um, So not only with those changes, Levitate just rocks and rolls on. It's great. There's not an issue. But also there is a great opportunity there for Levitate to show us where there's missing pieces within our data.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if we have bounce backs, Levitate reports on that to us. If we have missing phone numbers, so it all works together so that we can make the best use of our data and also correct mistakes that are in our data. So I think it works perfect, and I can't say enough of how wonderful Levitate was when we were making that transition. Super patient, super kind, and because that's a tough transition for an insurance agency during that time. I can't say enough about Levitate and how helpful, especially Lewis was. Lewis is our person.
Oh, excellent. I was going to make sure that we got his name on the record.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lewis is one of our more senior specialists on the team. He's a principal, and he's been here for a while, and he is really awesome.
That's excellent. I feel blessed to have him. That's for sure.
That is a great hook for listeners to make sure to tune in next week when we talk to April about her full experience with Levitate, because I'm definitely going to dive into that more. I want to get to the fourth question that I have for Leah. And this is, the audience knows, and they're sick of this joke, I'm looking to start a fight on the podcast one day. It hasn't happened, but it's my goal one day down the road. But Leah, I think you're in a very good position overseeing customer success and the success specialists for this question. Our podcast is a dialogue between a technology provider and insurance professionals. And my perspective, I've always believed and put forward that that honesty and transparency is like the kindest thing you can do with someone, to be direct and in your conversations with them. So I would love to get this perspective from you, Leah. And we'll have the counter to this as question 5 too. So don't worry if it comes off too hard. But question 4, what is the hardest part of working with insurance agencies?
So I would actually say the hardest part is how busy they are. They have lots of demands on their time. They're typically, business owners that have a lot going on. And while we try to make our product really easy to use, I think, we've given the success specialist to work with them. And so to your question of, feedback, our biggest thing is just making sure we've scheduled these meetings. We want to be there to help them. So making sure people are showing up and using the time and the resources that we're giving to them so that we can help them get the most value out of Levitate.
I imagine Paul Hawkins, our CEO and founder, has the saying. He likes to say that insurance professionals are always so busy putting out fires that they don't have time to grab the fire extinguisher. Do you feel in your experience and your team's experience that is sometimes true, where they're pulled in so many different directions, they're helping in so many different ways, that even if you're standing there holding the fire extinguisher, they can't grab it sometimes?
Yeah, no, that is a really good analogy there. And that definitely can be true. I think with some of our agencies we work with, that is definitely the case. They're so busy that they're not seeing that we're trying to help them with the things that might be creating that busyness for them. And, having that belief in how that keep in touch can help them, and how being in regular constant communication with their clients is going to change things. Getting them kind of bought in on the way that we do things can take a little bit upfront, but once they see that value and what comes back, then they're showing up to meetings and wanting to know more.
Yeah. April, was that a perspective you had to come around to? Were you always bought into the regular meeting with Lewis and getting that input, or was it something that you had to see the benefit of before you really could commit the time to it?
No, I think that it's just like anything else. Once you're determined to do that, and once I think the buy-in comes really before you sign up. So I think once, and I had looked at Levitate the first year that I came on board, and we just weren't there yet. I had to build my team. I had to get some things in place. I had to grow my book so that I could, pay for the resources that I need.
Mhm.
But I think that once we made that decision, there was just no looking back. Everything was in
Yeah.
the rear view. Now, I will say that I'm probably not the fastest and client that Lewis has been able to put on board, just because we've had some transition and we've had to work all some things out with data. But I think that it's always been an important buy-in for us and something to buy in easy. So I do take that time with Lewis seriously, but I'm looking forward now that we're kind of through the transition to even build further on what we're
Mm.
already doing. When you get that first read report from Levitate, when you go through that first process and you send your first email out, it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
So the proof is
Mhm.
convincing, and it gets you on board fast.
Right
Okay.
from the start. Like, you don't have to wait to see the potential of what you can really do.
My last official question for Leah, and this is the upswing on that. The hard part, I like to end on a happy note. Leah, you've had a long career at Levitate, working with agencies and focused on customer success. Um, I would love to know, what is the best part for you with working with insurance agencies?
So, no question, it's the people. At Levitate, we do actually work with multiple industries. So
Hmm.
we have clients that are in other kind of industries out there, and I will say, I think we all love our insurance agents the best. The teams that we work with, and we even find specifically like our HawkSoft clients, they just genuinely care about their clients, their communities, and I think that really matches with our own Levitate culture and values. And so just getting to work with them and those relationships that we build with them are just very rewarding.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you brought up Levitate's culture and values. And I should have brought this up in the first question. Um, but I like to give flowers when it's appropriate. And I think that I've had a long time of working alongside Levitate and getting to see from a distance the business and how you operate. And I definitely want our listeners to understand that the quality of a company, I think, matters. I firmly believe that how a company treats their employees is direct reflection on how they're going to treat their customers. And I am always inspired by how Levitate fosters a community and a culture internally. I'm always inspired by what Levitate does for the community of Raleigh, where they're based and where a lot of their folks work. So I just want to get that on the record and say that if folks are evaluating Levitate and evaluating any company, you should really peek at how they treat their customers and what the employees, or you should really peek at how a company is treating their team members, and what the teams have to say about the company. Because I think that from my outside perspective and what I see from Levitate, it seems like a pretty special place to work.
Yeah, we have a great culture and a great group of employees here.
So, as a bridge to get us to the next episode, I have to put on my formal hat. I just periodically get to pretend to host this podcast. My real job at HawkSoft, for listeners, I'm the director of partner integrations. And so I got to oversee Levitate's initial deployment of integration with HawkSoft. And I got to see them go from being an API partner with us to being a two-way API integrated partner. Um, so I'd love, Leah or April, this final question is like, how does Levitate work with HawkSoft? And so, is there anything else you want to add about how Levitate integrates with the HawkSoft platform?
Our integration, our goal with it is, when we did this, the two-way integration was really just to make life easier for our agents. We are automatically syncing their contact information, their policy information from HawkSoft into Levitate. And that really gives them the flexibility to segment, to personalize their outreach. So if you want to send an email to just your auto policy clients, you're able to do that with Levitate. If you want to do happy birthday text messages. You can automate that in Levitate. And then any of those interactions from Levitate are going to be logged back into HawkSoft as a note. And that's really so HawkSoft continues to be your source of truth and has all of your data in one place.
And that's very helpful, especially when all members of your team are accessing client files, but they're not necessarily the ones that are handling the Levitate function within your agency. So they can see what's being sent out. And then, if one thing that's great is that if we do segment those to come from different team members within our agency, we can set those responses where they come back to certain people so that it does not overwhelm one person at one time. So that makes it personable, manageable, and then the integration is just there. So it's like a triple threat, so to speak, in the best way.
Absolutely. And I think that is a perfect note to entice our listeners to come back next week when we dive into how Carolina Property Insurance and April use Levitate within their agency. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the episode description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode, as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you.